This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time to listen to How to Super Age with Elise Marie Collins. And Elise, I've already interviewed Craig, and he has so many stories to share and so many ideas. And I just thought, you know what? He would be a great guest on Super Age. And I know that you've read his bio, so give us a little bit of background.
I'd love to. I cannot wait to hear from Craig Cooke. I'd like to welcome him to How to Super Age. He's a visionary entrepreneur who founded and led rhythmnet.com to success, and he eventually sold it to a world-class digital agency. With over 26 years of experience working with renowned brands like American Honda Motors and Beats by Dr. Dre, Greg brings a wealth of business insights to his work. Beyond his corporate achievements, Craig is a practitioner of Chinese Medical Qigong, offering energy healing that promotes wellness as we age. Craig is also the author of Kung Fu Business, where he shares his insights on strategic leadership and transforming businesses through the principles of martial arts. So join us today on How to Super Age to discover how Craig's unique blend of business acumen and holistic practices can help you to thrive at any age. If you're looking to age gracefully and achieve success in business and life, don't we all want that? This interview is going to be for you. And before we begin, just want to show you Greg's got a book too, but we also have How to Super Age. Sorry, I always call it How to Super Age. It is Super Ager. On this podcast, we talk about how to super age. This book is a book I wrote to help people look younger, have more energy, better memory, and live a long and healthy life. So pick up your copy. Links are in the bio, and I can't wait to get to our guest. So welcome, Craig. I know you have an extensive bio, and I didn't cover everything. Is there anything else you want to add for our listeners today?
No, thank you, Lisa. Happy to be here, and thank you for the kind introduction. And that was plenty. Yeah, there's the bio's kind of long, and you hit on the high points, and yeah, we could just get into discussion, and whatever comes up comes up.
That sounds great. And I'll just mention that super agers always have long bios, right, everybody?
Yeah.
But we can always, distill it to that true nature. And one of the things I like about what I know to be your true nature, not even knowing you that well, we've just spoken once on the phone, but just to, that combination of energy, medicine, and business is such a great combination because we often silo those things, especially in a place like the United States where we don't have that history or sort of philosophy. I study yoga and more traditional healing arts that are based starting in India. And from that study, and also study of any indigenous culture, it's like that's part of everything you do, but we've kind of segmented it in business. So maybe you could just start out like, how do you put those two together, especially in your book? Tell us a little bit about your book and if there's anything that's helped you or anyone age, in this process of healing. We'll get to that, but that's a lot of questions. So just talk a little bit about your business and healing, how you combine that. And if you see me go off camera, it's because there's a little whining dog, and I think she wants to go sit up on a couch. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have two dogs myself, but they're not in here at the moment. But yeah, dogs are great. Love dogs. Dogs help keep us young too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so with my business and the combination of energy medicine, that really came into play around 2014. And I was been in business since 1996. And in 2014, I came across a medical Qigong practitioner by the name of Russ Anderson, great guy. And at the time, I was really just out of balance with myself, is the way I like to describe it. Just mentally, emotionally, yeah, just from all the compounding pressures of running a company, a growing, fast-growing company, dealing with employee needs, client demands, vendor issues, juggling family life. And I was just kind of not myself and thrown out of balance. I was, quicker to getting frustrated, quicker to ends with work associates and family was just not as ideal, right? And after meeting this gentleman, I was intrigued that he knew medical Qigong because I was familiar with Qigong from my study of Chinese Kung Fu when I was younger, and I had exposure to martial Qigong. But I never met anyone that studied the medical aspects. So I went and saw him, and after had a great experience the first time, and then after about 6 months of seeing him once a month, work done on me, I found myself feeling much more centered and balanced. And at that time, he asked me if I'd like to learn how to do that work, and I said absolutely. And I took a deep dive into it, and it was a game changer for me in running my company. Just when you're more centered and balanced, you can really operate amidst the chaos and make better decisions, not be reactive in a sense, and making rash judgments and decisions, and letting the stress get the better of you. It's a big game changer for me, and I've been practicing ever since for the last 10 years, and it helped me to continue to bring my company to new levels of success, uh, up to where you had mentioned I was able to actually sell the company in 2019, which was like the pinnacle of success.
Wow, that's exciting. And when I was hearing your journey, I was also hearing that the your journey could also be a journey of, life path journey, not just business, but everything, we go through life and then sometimes we get a setback, but not everybody goes through it with such grace or turns to uh medical qigong. So I'm wondering, how is medical qigong different than, say, kung fu? Because it sounds very different to me.
Sure. Yes, great question. So, since I've studied both, uh, Kung Fu has its emphasis on martial application. So there is a lot of health and wellness aspects to Kung Fu. It's all about developing the mind, body, and spirit, um, which is something that was really appealing to me from the start. And Qigong actually has traditionally three main branches. It has martial, medical, and spiritual branches. And the system that I'm studying right now actually incorporates all three branches. Oh, there's your doggy. Very cute. Yeah, so yeah, very cute. Martial, medical, and spiritual. So there's crossover where Kung Fu incorporates Qigong, but usually in a martial perspective. And then Qigong itself has its martial aspects to it. So there's overlap, but there's separateness as well. And then certain martial arts, Tai Chi, for example, are very similar to Qigong. So sometimes when people see um, practitioner Qigong, say in the park, they might confuse it for Tai Chi because it looks similar. But the difference between Tai Chi and Qigong is that Tai Chi, even though there's a lot of slow flowing movement and integrating the mind, body, and breath, there's still that martial application. So that's the primary difference with Chinese Kung Fu and martial arts. The different styles, like Tai Chi, for example, have a martial application, where Qigong in itself, it has martial, but also medical and spiritual.
For those of us who think of martial arts as being um, very combative, it's it can be used that way, but for the most part, isn't it taught for us to learn control and to understand how those movements and our mind all work together?
Yes, it actually is really about developing the entire being, not just physically. but also, the mind, body, and spirit, everything, your complete being, and integrating your uh, complete being to be the best that it can be. And uh, really, when it comes to the combat, it's really, which should be taught anyway, the way I learned, and should be taught, is that that's the last resort. It's really, yeah, you learn how to defend yourself and your loved ones, and those
Yeah.
that need help, but it's a last resort. It's really about the development of the being, and to its highest potential.
Yeah, I love that. To your highest potential. Um, and you in school right now studying to go deeper into Qigong? Because how is that evolution manifesting for you right now?
Yes, I'm actually enrolled in a doctorate program for Chinese energy medicine. It's through the Temple of Change and Transformation, and I'll actually be finished with the program next, well, in less than a month, actually, in August. Towards the end of August, I'll be finished. It's a 4-year program. It's taught by a legend in the space, Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson. Really, really great man. He's been at it for 50 years. Uh, was the first Westerner allowed to practice in the medical Qigong clinics in China in the early 90s. And he's just a walking encyclopedia. And it's his program, and been really taking a deep dive further into developing my skills and knowledge and so forth. And yeah, it's great. It's been really rewarding and exciting. In addition to the studying, I do the practitioner work. I have a number of clients that come and see me on a regular basis, and I always get new people as well. In the past 10 years that I've been doing session work on people, I'm getting pretty close to 1,000 sessions. Yeah, maybe I'll hit it this year, if not next year for sure.
Wow, that's great. I'm wondering if you can tell us, maybe you have some clients that are, I don't know, older is a relative term because we're all getting older day by day. But I'm wondering if you have any specific insights into how medical Qigong helps us age. And I mean, I think we're all aging again. So that can be a broad question, but if you have any antidotes, because I think sometimes, we don't realize we're aging until we do. And that can happen, at any age, right? It could be just when suddenly something catches up with us. So I just love to hear any insights from your perspective.
Sure. So, uh, there's really a lot to it, and it's integrating the mind, body, and breath, and with this integrated cellular level, and through simple movements and a combination of different types of breathing, sometimes even sound, and then also visualization, you're having all these various impacts on your body. Some of that could be for actual healing purposes. Other aspects are just more for maintaining your health. Um, Different organs, for example, there's what are called the 5 yin organs, which are the heart, the lungs, the liver, and the spleen and the kidneys. And there's exercises that focus just on those organs and help keep, let's say, 3 aspects of purging, tonifying, and regulating. We're purging, getting rid of the negative energy that resides in those organs, which are tied to very specific emotions with each of those different organs. And then tonifying is strengthening each of those organs. And then the regulation is another word for balancing, keeping everything in this balanced state, because our body seeks homeostasis, a balanced state, and it really works to ultimately create balance, as that's what it's all about. And then through a balanced mind, body, and spirit, it helps us age more gracefully, because what creates disease, illness, is stress. right? And all these different negative emotions that come into play, as well as environmental factors as well. But just paying attention to the organs, like those five yin organs that I talked about, that alone, some of the exercises that target those is really beneficial because your organs are so important to your health.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm going to take my little dog. Welcome, everyone. This is my dog, Leah. She's making so much noise today.
She
I thought she
joins us
wanted to come down.
occasionally.
I'm in the basement recording here. She wanted to come down, but I think her little stomach organ is hungry, so I'm going to bring her
Oh,
upstairs. I do have a question, and then Kieran, if you have a question, mine is quick, but I don't want to forget. Do you always do this in person, your work, or is it sometimes remote? And then Kieran, if you have a question, I'm just going to take my
Sure,
leave.
go right ahead.
Be right back.
Mhm. Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. In person and remote, I actually do both. So when I'm doing the energy work with people as a practitioner, most of the people that I see do come in person. However, as interesting as it may sound to some of the audience members out there that are not familiar with this practice, there is the possibility where you're able to have an impact on someone remotely. So, like the furthest person that I've worked with remotely is resides in Paris, right? And normally I just get on Zoom and it's just as if they're in person, but I do the work as if they were there, but they're in a different location. And it's like, wow, how does that work? Well, if you think about it from a quantum physics standpoint, right? If you just kind of take the woo out of it and from a more scientific perspective, think of quantum entanglement where you have two particles that have a connection. Oh, look at those balloons. I don't know how that happened, but interesting. Yeah. So you have two particles that um, have a connection, and then say they get separated by vast distance. Well, that connection is still maintained regardless of distance. So, at a very base level of explaining how it's possible, that's the kind of the framework to think of. That's quantum mechanics, quantum physics. So yeah, it's possible. But most of the people I do see are in person.
One of the things that I've been writing about recently is that we are responsible for ourselves, meaning from being happy to being healthy, that whole picture. And yet, many of us grew up in an era where somebody else was sort of responsible for that, whether it was going to the doctor, going to the dentist, your parents. We weren't taught how to take care of ourselves. And when I started figuring it out for myself, it was like, well, this is easier than I ever thought. Okay. I know how I react to certain foods. And if certain foods make me sick, why am I eating them? And
Right.
if certain activities stress me out, if I don't have to be part of those activities, I have learned to say no. Now, there are certain things in life, like you said, environmental, family, you're not probably going to get away from, but you can change your mindset on how you react to them. And so I can understand how you can do this long distance wise because you're sharing that energy with your patient or your client.
Yes. Yeah. And it takes really focused intention through the mind to be able to do that. It's just not like, waving your hands around. It just happens. It takes a lot of focus and intention. Intention, where intention goes, energy flows. It's kind of a saying, or imagination leads the mind leads the chi. Chi is energy, right? Those sayings, and it just takes pretty intense focus to do it remotely. Yeah, it's I find it definitely is easier in person, but it's possible. Just like I said, it's possible. It just takes a lot of focus, and one has to really have their skills developed. They have to have done the work, the cultivation work, the energy work to attune the body to be able to guide and direct chi in person effectively before they can really do it remotely.
Mm. Very interesting. I love all that you're bringing, and I want to go back to business for a little bit. I see your book. Maybe you could
Oh,
point
yes,
to
right there.
where.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have
Oh,
There
hold
it
it
is.
up. Yes, perfect. Yeah. What inspired you to write this book? Is it, yeah, tell us a little bit about your inspiration behind writing.
Sure. So I first thought of the idea around 2011. It took me 12 years to get the book done, actually. But books were my first passion in life. As soon as I was able to read, I had a book in front of my face. I just loved books. And when I was a late teenager, I always thought, well, I'd love to write a book someday, and just didn't know on what. And in 2011, as I was in the midst of growing the company, the concept came to me, business kung fu. And really, then the inspiration is just to share my expertise, what I have learned in life, to help others. After I left my company, I sold in 2019. I stayed on for 3 years as CEO, the role that I had served. And in 2022, I started thinking about the next chapter. What is that going to look like? And really define a new purpose moving forward. And that's very important that we have purpose, right? And that was really to create things that inspire and empower others to help them fulfill their divine potential. So the book serves that purpose. It's something I created, and it's really geared towards entrepreneurs and business professionals to empower them to overcome challenges along their business journey. So that was the inspiration and the idea behind it, and the concept. Why I named it Business Kung Fu is because you alluded to it earlier. Uh, it's how I took the principles that I learned from studying Chinese Kung Fu and martial arts, and how I applied it to running my company. So there's all these parallels and examples that I provide throughout the book on these principles and how it helped me structure my company, my mindset. Essentially, it is a mindset book at its core.
Mm.
But there's a lot of lessons and information and parallels here between martial arts and the world of business.
For those who are listening and who say, well, it's a business book, it's more than a business book because our life is a business, whether we
Mhm.
want to admit that or not. We're always trying to achieve something, trying to sell some part of ourselves, and we're always buying something. And so I want our listeners to understand, I've talked to Craig before, I've read his bio, I've been out on his website. Um, there is so much out there that even if you are not a business person, even if you're saying, I don't have a career, you have a purpose every day when you get up. And the concepts in the book are going to help you live a much better life. And not that you're going to take all of them and say, okay, I'm going to do all these things, but find something that works for you, because that's what super aging is about. We don't have to stop because we reach a certain milestone in our life. And I once thought that, and I was at my kindergarten reunion last weekend, and I was so excited to be able to say, this is what I'm doing now, and this is what I'm planning to do. And I had some of my classmates look at me going like, whoa, are you ever going to slow down? I don't need to. Okay.
Yeah,
If Mother Nature makes me slow down, I'll deal with it then. But until then, I have a purpose.
yeah,
I
that's
love
great.
that. Yeah, I was gonna say, yes, I 100% agree, Karen. Business is very broad, especially as we age. The categories that were sort of programmed into from an early age, such as you got to achieve this, you got to go to school, you got to do this. Those markers, we'll call them, they don't, I don't think they ever really apply. We try to fit into some mold, or society tries to get, not everybody fits into it. But as we age, business can be so many things. Could be fundraising. It could be the business of raising grandchildren. You're still going to have to, like, do a lot of business, as you said, a lot of business in that. It could be, in my book, I have so many examples of different ways of aging, and they could all be sort of business. But I do want to come back to actually nuts and bolts again with business, because what makes me curious, I hear a lot of, I'd say those of us 60 and older that have a side hustle or need a side hustle or want a side hustle. There's both, because we're aging. Some, have means and just want more business because they love it. And some of us need to have that business because, let's face it, what we're getting doesn't always pay the bills. And unfortunately, we're living in these times where there's a lot of inflation. And how can we use your book for maybe both, for aging and creating a side hustle or entrepreneurial journey, whether we're starting at 50, 60, even 70, there's people wanting to start businesses to
Sure,
add to
sure.
their income.
Right. Yeah, and to address two things, one, I'm pleasantly surprised the reviews I've been getting for the book, that there's been some comments about, pretty much, Karen, to what you're alluding to, is not only is it a business book, but it serves as a great roadmap for life, because there's these universal principles in there that apply to just life in general, right? So that's great. And yeah, as we continue to age, we're met with challenges like in today's interesting economy, where we have rapid rising inflation and all these additional pressures. There is this need to create additional revenue streams, and there is well, the book overall serves as kind of like a guiding framework on how you can start the company from scratch, that how you get your mindset right. And then chapter one is about building a foundation. And you have to build a solid foundation for your business. And then it gets into other aspects of discipline and learning. I mentioned in there, learning, always be learning. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years old or 50 years old. I say in there, you always have to be learning, and it's super important. So there's all these different aspects as you evolve in your business that the book covers. One thing that's really important in chapter one, and about building the foundation, I have this model called 5 elements of entrepreneurship.
Mm.
And I also like to refer to it as 5 elements of success, because again, these principles are universal and can be applied outside of business, but um, it's a business book, so that's the context, right? Now, the 5 elements of entrepreneurship, or 5 elements of success, is based on Chinese 5 element theory. And this theory, that's originated in the Chinese culture thousands of years ago, uh, spans across various aspects in life, uh, from martial arts to medicine, spiritual systems. And 5 elements in this model are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And there's these cycles that these elements operate and then relationships with each other. And it's all about balance. In our reality has a constitution of these 5 elements, and they're either in balance or they're out of balance. Yeah, and if they're out of balance, there's excess or deficient conditions. And when I'm doing my deal with those imbalances, is there an excess and deficiency in the kidneys, for example? All right. What I have identified through my study of martial arts and medical Qigong, and my experience as a business professional, and my successes and failures, as well as observing others and their success, and identified 5 elements of entrepreneurial success. And that is passion, and passion leads to discipline, and discipline leads to these cycles that these elements operate in, and then there's the relationship and then balanced state and the balanced states. And it's about developing the potential of each of those elements and fulfilling the potential. But then there's the aspect of maintaining the balance, because life has a funny way of knocking us out of balance. It's full of surprises, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's professional or surprises, like losing a client, for example, or sort of personal life situation that throws you off balance. So how quickly can you get back to balance and then maintain that balance, right? So that's an important thing that I stress in the book, and it's something that's really been well received out there
Yeah.
by people.
I'm sold. I'm definitely buying your book. It sounds fantastic, and I love just this is the first chapter. The roadmap is so helpful because I think about the chakras a lot. I'm more versed in the chakras and actually wrote a book that combines drinks and chakras. Chakra Tonics is one of my books. Uh,
I mean,
Yeah, but I think like the way you've really deep dived into the business, and again, it's so relevant to everything we do. You know, we need a foundation. You know, if you're going to be working in nonprofit, I also do some nonprofit work. You need that foundation because all those things. I was like, yeah, I know that part. I know that part. I know the passion. I know the discipline that's needed. I know when things get out of balance. I think we're all raising our hands. So your book sounds, yeah, just so helpful. Now, do you speak, or I know you've got this busy medical qigong practice. Do you also get requests to speak at like business conferences? I think in your bio, I read about some of your yeah, other work. And because I'm thinking like a lot of people should hear what you're saying. We're lucky to hear you today, but tell us a little bit about any other speaking work that you do.
sure, sure. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and when I was running my company, I would do speaking at various events and so forth. Now that I've been out of my company, I haven't done much of that, but I'm starting to now that I have this book out. Actually, just a couple weeks ago, I was at a business event and then given a presentation specifically about the 5 elements that we just talked about, and then sharing with people a very simple qigong exercise that they could do to help them get back in balance. And yeah, super, super well received. I've been doing that talk over the past few months here in different places, but it's something I definitely want to start doing a lot more of now that the book is out and I kind of got a rhythm going, and getting on podcasts and sharing the message and so forth. And it's definitely an avenue I'm going to be pursuing and much more in the coming year.
Yeah. And I know we're getting towards the end of our podcast, but I think it's so needed in business because business, I don't know which element, but you know, the push through it is so much a part of American
Yeah.
society. And in the chakras, it's like you're just driving from your manipura, which is in your belly. You're just like pushing, and you lose the balance of the heart, the purpose, all those other things. And I just was envisioning like, yes, what if corporate leaders, entrepreneurs, instead of just pushing through and forcing things, what if they stopped and did some qigong? What a different world we'd live in.
Yes, yes. In my presentation that I've been giving, that I just mentioned, I give that example of when this element of discipline is in excess, an excess state, what it happens, it causes burnout. That's the ramification of it. Because yeah, you push, drive, pedal to the metal, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, eventually, like just like any engine breaks down, we will suffer burnout. And then at that point, what other health implications that could come into play? So there needs to be that break. Every engine needs a break, right? So uh yes, taking some time out, whether it's qigong or yoga or strength training, running, something, different people, things work for different people. Everyone's different, so they have to find what works for them. But yeah, there's this push, 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 force, force, force that eventually has all kinds of ramifications at the end of the day because you get thrown out of balance.
It's funny. I have a side hustle on the IT side of business. And I had a client the other day that I was sent out to, and I asked purposely because when I got the assignment, there was not a very good explanation. So I called and I said, "What is the purpose of this visit?" And they said, "Purpose, just follow the outline." I said, "No, there's more to it. Yeah, I'm going in to do the survey. Why am I going in to do the survey with the client?" They had no idea, none whatsoever. And so I did some research. I went to the client. The client was not expecting me to be there for what I was there for. And in the past, I would have gotten very upset. But it was like, okay, let's talk about why you think I'm here. Let's figure it out. Now, I did not do the assignment that day. I went out and I called the client and I explained, I'm working with a corporation and I'm not going to ruin my reputation. So let's talk about how we can make this right. It's taken 3 days to get them to understand what I'm talking about. And today, this morning, I got an email saying, can you go back on Thursday? This is the reason you're going. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to explain. It was like, that's all I needed. And that's all the client
Right.
needed. And it just
Yeah.
made me feel good to know that I did the right thing, but not just for the business. I did it for me. Because, like I said, in the past, I
Mhm.
would have gotten upset. I probably would have called them and said, hey, forget the assignment. I never wanted to see it again. And it was like, but there's something in it for me. So let me find out what that is. And I think a lot of times we get caught up and we get upset and we don't stop and ask the right questions. But you got to figure out for yourself, is this right for me?
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, and that's an example of really coach as opposed to being out of balance and letting your emotions trigger you and get the best of you, which really isn't the best for you.
Yeah,
But to really have a balanced approach and do what you said, because from my experience in well, say 90 issues, whether it's a lack of communication, a misinterpretation in communication. And then the example that you just provided, it was really having solid communication that really resolved things at the end of the day and got you to move forward. So yeah, that's
exactly.
great.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And when you were talking about burnout, Craig, I was like, well, that's kind of how we get through life. We go through stages where we feel overwhelmed and possibly burnt out, and we need to come back into balance. So, so much of what you said is going to help us super age. And your story was on point as well, Karen, because you were using the wisdom. I just heard so much wisdom in that. Some people just want to fit everything into a box, but I think an elemental, an elemental philosophy is going to work. It's holistic, right? We can't just
Exactly.
segment like that. So, any final parting words from either of you guys? I've loved this conversation so much.
Well, I do. The one big message I have in my book that I also been speaking about, kind of what I end my presentation with, is the importance of being of service to self. And I have a saying in my book, be of service to self so you can be of service to others for a lifetime. And it's super important because what ends up happening like burnout we've been talking about, but you could also compromise your health. And I learned that lesson the hard way because I was push, 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 go, go, go. When I started my company, I was in great shape. 10 years later, I was at the opposite end of the spectrum, and I actually came down with a condition of diabetes
Mm.
type 2, turn that around. And today I did. And today I'm happy to report that I have reversed that condition 100% naturally, without any sort of medications. But that's because I am being of service to self. And when I was feeling the effects of diabetes, having foggy brain, crashing in the afternoon, going home at night and falling asleep on the couch when I never was doing that before, I just didn't have the energy and the capacity to perform like I used to. So what good is that for people that I'm in service to when I'm not able to perform at an optimal level? So by taking care of myself, learning this lesson the hard way, and really getting back to an optimal state of health, I feel like I did in my 20s again. And now I have the energy to be of service to others for a lifetime because I'm not going back to the way I was. I'm definitely going to stay on this path, right? And it's all about this aging, super aging, I think is the way you stated it, right? So it's super important to be of service to self so you can be of service to others for a lifetime.
Okay. I can't say that enough. That was the most beautiful closing message. Be of service to self. Be of service to self. I just want to put a bow on that because what you just said is so profound. You cured yourself of type 2 diabetes using your medical Qigong, I believe, and probably a bunch of different things, which would be a whole other podcast, but just that you were able to do that, serve yourself. And that is so incredible. I just want to say a quick story here, and then we'll sign off. But I'm also a baseball fan. Oakland A's. I'd say he's the best closing pitcher in baseball, in my opinion. Mason Miller. He didn't know he was a diabetic. He did not know he's a diabetic. He was playing baseball. I don't remember the college, but he was a college student, and he wasn't doing that great. He was in Division 2, wasn't even a Division 1 player. He decided, I'm going to go into hospital administration. It's a lucrative career. And he had to take a blood test to be working in a hospital. And they were like, something is totally wrong with your blood. Something's wrong with this blood work. I think they thought he might have been on medication or drugs or something, or you're diabetic. He was a diabetic. He stabilized. I think he's still a diabetic, but he got the treatment and now he's like the best closer in baseball. So it's amazing, the service to self. Like, I didn't know diabetes could make you, change you so quickly from, these ups and downs, and it makes sense, but it's such a metaphor too, because it's also an epidemic. And so all these things combine, like how can we manage our health, our well-being, and stay on point in business and life? Stay tuned for more episodes. We'd love to have you back on again sometime. So we'll stay in touch, and good luck on your doctorate thesis and anything else you want to add, Karen.
No, I'm looking forward to another session with Craig, and all the information will be in the show notes. So no excuse not to find Craig and not to follow Elise. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.